seems to have studied Rome's tactics deeply, as this strategy was one of Caesar's own favourite strategies.
What? He's using Caesar's tactics against... Oh, continuing on with Caesar in Gaul.
With some administrative matters in 54 BC,
I haven't forgotten.
Caesar began planning
My hair
his
looks
second campaign
a bit
Britain.
messy because I haven't
Almost 600
picked it out and done it properly.
transports and
So
28 warships were built,
yeah.
implementing Veneti shipbuilding techniques better suited to the rough seas.
Wait. So you're telling me this dude conquered the Veneti? The Veneti were something else. They were something like that naval tactic that they did, freaking carrying whole 50,000 people. Some people told me that they could carry like freaking whole, literally like a whole, essentially city size. That's like 50,000. It's like small city, really and truly. That's like some Caribbean islands. That's like more than some Caribbean islands population actually. So yeah, that was really something. But he's using their techniques,
and amassed 4,000
shipbuilding
cavalry,
techniques,
including tribal leaders, once again bolstering his army and minimizing the risk of revolts in Gaul. He left half of his cavalry and 3 legions in Gaul and crossed with 5 legions and 2,000 cavalry, more than double his previous numbers. This
he's going back to Britannia.
Caesar landed at the same place as before, but this time he was unopposed. He quickly established a camp in the area and sent out scouts, who promptly brought back some local prisoners. They informed Caesar that a large army had actually gathered to oppose the landing, but had retreated upon seeing the size of Caesar's force.
Oh, they don't want that smoke.
Camp, he immediately set out in search of the Briton army. The Romans marched through the night and were able to catch up to the Britons in a hill fort on the other side of a river. Although the Romans were tired, Caesar was determined to confront the Britons and began crossing.
Alright, let me talk about this real quick. I had this little debate, right, a long time ago, that English people were Germans. I actually made a small community post about it. I don't know if y'all saw it or not. And I pointed out how, because the person, they were using Briton to mean modern British people. And I pointed out how Briton meant the original native inhabitants of Britannia before and during the Roman times. Now, they did make a valid point that if you Google it, Briton also means modern British national. But in my personal opinion, I believe that that word Briton was diluted. That's the best word that I could think of. Diluted. Because, and I know I have a lot of British people who watch my videos, but I will forever say this, but English people aren't native to Britannia, let alone indigenous to Britannia. They came from Germania, and their DNA shows that they share the same DNA as Dutch people and Germans, because they're all the same people. They're all Germanic peoples. They're all Germans, frankly speaking. Okay, so yeah, I really just, and I know, like, I've seen this argument like so many times. Oh, but if you look at the DNA composure of modern people on Britannia today, they have Brittonic blood in them. Well, yeah, obviously, because, well, interbreeding happens. That is very common. Okay? Like, I wouldn't call myself European because I have European DNA inside of me. Like, and I wouldn't call myself African because I have African DNA inside of me. Like, I'm mixed. I look at people and I tell them I'm mixed. Like, I'm mixed. What am I culturally? I'm culturally English. Why? Because that's the culture that I grew up in. Okay, that's literally the culture that my country is. Okay, like, we grew up with King's English. We grew up driving on the same side. Oh my gosh, yo, I was freaked out when I came to America and I found out that Americans drove on a completely different side. There's a lot of things that it took me a bit to get used to when I moved to America, because I grew up in the English culture, right? So I always look at people and I tell them, yeah, I'm English. Like, but racially speaking, I just tell them that I'm mixed. And in fact, I just say that I'm Creole, a person mixed of African and European descent. So, yeah.
The Britons' cavalry and chariots rushed down from the high.
But my point is I don't like the fact how the term Briton was diluted. Okay? Like, it's basically like a spit in the face to the actual Britons. You know what I mean? And I know if you're a real Briton, you should understand what I'm talking about, because I've seen plenty of actual Britons. I'm talking Scottish people, Welsh people. I wouldn't really say Cornish people because they are more or less assimilated by now, to be honest with you. So, yeah.
Ground to harass the Romans as they crossed. Caesar's allied Gallic cavalry were experienced in fighting in such scenarios and proved their value, chasing off the Britons, who quickly retreated to the woods surrounding the fort. As the legions began their advance up the hill, they were harassed from the woods by the Britons, preventing them from making significant progress until the 12th Legion formed a testudo and were able to make a rudimentary rampart in order to move over the walls. The Romans were now inside the fortifications, but the Britons were quick to escape the fort and retreated deeper into the woods. Considering the men had carried out a night march and battle, and that he did not know the terrain and whether any more Britons would be waiting for him, Caesar made camp for the night. The next day, word reached him that a storm in the night had again damaged his ships. Without the ships, Caesar would be at the mercy of the Britons, so he decided to prioritize overseeing their repairs. He commanded his army to reassemble and march back to the beach. Upon arriving, he discovered that 40 ships were beyond repair, but the rest were salvageable. Caesar ordered that the ships be brought onto the beach, and a large wall was constructed encompassing the camp and the ships.
Man, Caesar and his Fortnite building skills, man. Oh, well, I should say his men. Never fails to amaze me. I love it when Caesar starts to build stuff. It always amazes me, man.
He also sent word to Labienus to build more ships in Gaul. He then set off once again to find the Britons. They were in the same hill fort, but it was a larger force than before, under the command of Cassivelanus, a tribal leader beyond the Thames, who was appointed the leader of a united coalition against the Romans.
Interesting. So, the Britons also resisted Roman invasion. Interesting. I heard that the Britons actually welcomed the Romans because the Romans protected them from the Germans. And when the Romans left, well, that's when the Germans came. Obviously, because, no more protection. And well, that's how you get England today.
Caesar had marched past this fort, possibly not wanting to attack such a large and fortified enemy, instead attacking exposed villages to try and draw Cassivelanus out. At the same time, his troops were constantly harassed by the Britons' cavalry and chariots, fighting skirmishes with the Roman cavalry on the flanks, luring them into the forests before turning back to inflict significant casualties. The Britons seemingly allowed the Roman advanced party time to begin making a fort for the night. However, as construction began, the Britons attacked again. The Romans who were on guard were able to form a line to defend the site, but the fighting was brutal, with the Briton chariots darting in and out of the Roman formation. Caesar was forced to send a further 2 cohorts from the vanguard to quickly reinforce this line. The Romans were not used to the Briton style of fighting, particularly chariot hit-and-run tactics, drawing out the Roman infantry from formation who were too slow to catch them. At one point, the Britons were able to draw out a maniple far enough to create a gap, which they were able to exploit, punching through the Roman line and inflicting many casualties.
Yo!
It was not until the rest of the Roman army caught
The Britons are actually giving Caesar a run for his money.
up that the Britons disengaged and retreated. Cassivellaunus was proving himself a cunning enemy.
I agree. I very much agree.
Caesar marched to the Thames towards Cassivellaunus's own territories in an attempt to draw them out. Though he was able to find a position on the river where he could cross, the legions were once again harassed by Britons amassed on the other bank, who quickly retreated once the Romans were on dry land. Cassivellaunus then made the decision to dismiss the vast majority of his army except for 4,000 chariots, likely realizing that fighting a pitched battle against the Roman heavy infantry would be futile. A smaller force would serve him much better in a guerrilla war. It would be easier to hide, faster to move, and need fewer supplies to maintain. Given the fact that he knew the terrain and Caesar did not, this was a smart and calculated move. However, Cassivellaunus's previous wars with other Britons had made him many enemies, and his new guerrilla tactics were not popular with the Trinobantes, whose leader Cassivellaunus had previously killed. They sent envoys to Caesar, surrendering and promising hostages. The Trinobantes were second in power only to Cassivellaunus himself.
Bro, why is there always a freaking... Whatever. I guess it's my lighting. But I was gonna say... Wow, this reminds me of how when the Spanish arrived. Because honestly, I was looking at this, I was thinking to myself, seems to me that Caesar's gonna lose. But it really seems to me like how the Spanish arrived. Bro, freaking, I want to kill... God, no. Anyways, so like I was saying, this reminds of how the Spanish came to the New World and they conquered the Aztecs and Inca Empire with help from other natives that did not like them, although that came back to bite them somewhat in the butt.
And without their support, numerous tribes followed suit, surrendering to Caesar. They also provided critical intel to Caesar, including the location of Cassivellaunus's capital. Caesar marched there, another hill fort, burning all villages and fields on the way, and besieged it from both sides, once again hoping to draw the Briton leader into a direct confrontation. Cassivellaunus, however, did not take the bait. Although his guerrilla tactics were effective, they were taking a toll on the Britons, and the defenders within the capital quickly fled. Cassivellaunus realized he needed to gain a victory. Not wanting to fight Caesar directly though, he instead sent envoys to 4 allied kings in Kent, who launched an attack on the Roman camp on the beach in order to try and draw Caesar away from Cassivellaunus's land. However, the Roman fortifications were strong, and the force Caesar had left on the beach was easily able to repel the attack.
Oh wow, wow. That is okay, that is impressive.
Cassivellaunus was forced to sue for peace. Caesar readily accepted in exchange for hostages and tribute. Winter was closing in, and he had no desire to spend it in unknown, hostile lands. The Romans returned to the beach and sailed back to Gaul. Overall,
Wait a minute. If winter was coming, why didn't the Britons keep fighting until winter, man? They could have. Okay.
it is hard to see the invasion as an immense military victory. Cassivellaunus had not been decisively defeated in battle, nor captured, and the Romans maintained no presence in Britain. From Britain's standpoint, it was a strategic victory, having successfully pushed the Romans out of their lands.
Too bad he couldn't do that to the Anglo-Saxons.
In Britain had taken 2 years, and without Caesar's presence, Gaul was beginning to stir. In 54 BC, a Gallic tribe, the Eburones, under their leader Ambiorix, successfully revolted in Belgica, ambushing and destroying the 7,000 to 9,000 strong Roman detachment that had been sent to winter in their territory at Atawetica. Following this success, Ambiorix began to besiege the Roman garrison in the Nervii territory, and a general revolt in the area broke out, the Indutio Maris and the Treveri also rising in rebellion and being supported by the Germanic tribes across the Rhine. This was a dangerous position. Caesar had spread his legions across Gaul in order to not put too much strain on the resources of one area, and thus divided, they were vulnerable targets. However, he reacted quickly, marching directly to the besieged legion in Nervii territory, while Labienus fought off the Indutio Maris. Upon seeing Caesar approaching, Ambiorix gave up the siege to face this new threat, and was quickly defeated, while almost simultaneously, Labienus was able to successfully repel his opponents. Roman retribution for this revolt was swift and devastating. The Eburones were effectively wiped out, while Ambiorix, according to some sources, left Gaul for Germania. To help stabilize the situation, Pompey mobilized 2 more legions, and Caesar himself raised another. He now had almost 50,000 men in Gaul under his command. However, this was only the prelude to something much bigger.
Yeah, I'm Deadpool's roommate.
Roommate, do my videos still pause? Oh, they don't.
But Lord.
Alright, skip this part.
In 52 BC, Caesar returned to Italy in order to defuse another political problem, and in the same year, another large-scale revolt started. An Arverni leader, Vercingetorix, who probably knew about the political problems in Rome, had organized an alliance of powerful Gallic tribes that, inspired by Ambiorix, were now seeking independence, and had begun attacking Roman outposts and Roman allies in Gaul.
Caesar conquered Gaul, but his hold on it, yeah, I figured that his hold isn't really freaking tight.
Upon hearing this, Caesar quickly returned to Gaul to handle the situation. Going on one of his famous forced marches, he swiftly quelled the Senones and Carnutes by taking their capitals. His next target was one of the largest towns of the Bituriges, Noviodunum. Vercingetorix attempted to stop Caesar's advance near the city, but the Roman heavy infantry was too much for the Gauls and they were forced to retreat, losing many, which allowed Caesar to take the city. To finish off the Bituriges, he needed to take their capital, Avaricum. At this point, Vercingetorix started employing scorched earth tactics, and the Bituriges joined him by burning down 20 of their towns, every one but Avaricum. The Romans moved against this settlement and besieged it, and although Avaricum was very defensible and Vercingetorix attempted to help its defenders, it fell in less than a month. Caesar slaughtered 40,000 locals and replenished his supplies.
Wow. 40,000. Caesar, why? Why the war crimes? Why?
It was clear for Vercingetorix that he couldn't beat the Romans in the field. Meanwhile, Caesar was eager to end the rebellion before it could spread to other Gallic tribes, so he decided to strike the decisive blow by taking the capital of the Arverni, Gergovia. Leaving some troops in the area, Caesar marched with 25,000 towards this settlement, while Vercingetorix shadowed him. Gergovia was in a very solid defensive position, located on top of a high plateau, and Vercingetorix managed to overtake Caesar and positioned his army on the hills in front of the city. As he had done in previous battles, Caesar hoped to cut his enemy's supply lines in order to force them out of their defensive position, whilst he would be receiving supplies from the Aedui, his Gallic allies. However, the Gauls had occupied a hill overlooking the supply line, from where they could ensure water and grain could be transported into the city.
Smart.
Taking it would therefore be crucial to Caesar's plan. In a quick night attack, he was able to dislodge the Gallic garrison there and station 2 legions on the hill, linking this position with the main Roman camp by a trench. So far, all was going according to plan. Caesar's allies would supply him from the rear, and Vercingetorix would now be forced to either sacrifice his defensive position in order to re-establish his supply line, or be starved out. However, Vercingetorix had his own plans. He bribed the Aedui, who then also joined the revolt, attacking the Roman supplies and threatening to cut off Caesar and surround him. Once again,
Oh. Wait a minute. I'm not going to say nothing yet.
Vercingetorix seemed to have studied Rome's tactics deeply, as this strategy was one of Caesar's own favourite strategies.
What? He's using Caesar's tactics against... Oh, nah, bruh. Wait. But how did... Wait. How was he able to study freaking Roman tactics? Where did he study it from?
Caesar was forced to leave 2 legions to guard the Roman position at Gergovia, and took the other 4 to deal with the Aedui, quickly subduing them and forcing them to send 10,000 cavalry back to the siege with him. This revolt had Caesar worried that he might face even more revolts and could soon be encircled by the rebels. He needed to extract his legions from Gergovia and consolidate his troops. However, the situation at the city was not looking good. The 2 legions left to guard the Roman camp had been hard-pressed the entire time Caesar had been gone. Furthermore, Vercingetorix had divided his forces, leaving half to defend and fortify the main Gallic camp in front of the city, and half, led by himself, to fortify positions on the surrounding hills on the Gallic right flank. With a 6-foot wall now in front of the main Gallic camp, and the Gallic fortifications on the hills, Vercingetorix had removed any opportunity for Caesar to encircle him and the city. Seeing the Gallic forces divided, Caesar saw an opportunity to attack their main camp in order to deal a heavy enough blow to allow his army to retreat unmolested. He sent a diversionary force of 1 legion and some cavalry to the surrounding hills, making a huge amount of noise in order to distract the force commanded by Vercingetorix. Then he quickly and quietly moved his remaining legions up to the Gallic camp, leaving a few cohorts in the smaller camp on the occupied hill, while the Aedui cavalry were sent to flank around the Gallic left by another route. The Romans quickly clambered over the wall and fell upon the Gallic camp. The Romans initially had significant success, pushing the Gauls right up to the walls of the city, but Caesar ordered a withdrawal before the rest of the Gallic force under Vercingetorix could reinforce them. However, only 1 legion, the 10th, heard this order and retreated. The others continued.
Oh no! Oh! Is this gonna be a... Oh no. Wait, let's see.
The city itself. Some Romans managed to climb on top of the city walls, but were quickly cut down and thrown back off.
Oh!
Missiles from the city walls fell into the Roman ranks as they fought around the base of the walls. Vercingetorix, realizing what was happening from his position on the surrounding hills, sent the rest of his force, headed by his cavalry, to reinforce the camp. The Roman position was now truly desperate. The initial Gallic Wars
Caesar!
and the city walls.
What are you gonna do?
There was
What are you gonna do, Caesar?
out by pushing forward, and with Vercingetorix crashing into their flank, the legionaries were under serious pressure and were almost surrounded. The officers did their best to maintain Roman discipline and form a defensive formation. According to Caesar himself, 46 centurions died in this struggle, roughly a quarter of all the centurions present, and so maintaining any solid formation was almost impossible.
Wow.
The Aedui finally appeared on a hill to the Roman right flank, but the Romans, unable to tell if they were allied or not, broke completely, thinking that they were about to be fully surrounded.
Where the heck were
Caesar
they?
was able to use the 10th Legion and the cohorts that had been stationed in the small camp to cover the retreat, and prevented the Gauls from chasing them down, avoiding the total destruction of his army, and withdrew from the field.
Yeah, that was really Caesar's fault. That his men didn't hear that order. So I don't know. What if Caesar would have been defeated? Would you call that like a legitimate defeat on Caesar's part, or not? I don't know. I don't think I would.
In his commentaries, Caesar says that only 700 men were lost in this battle, but this is likely vastly underplaying the situation.
Yeah.
Caesar being forced
100%.
to assemble a rearguard and retreating shows how disastrous the battle was, and it is likely that the Romans lost thousands, modern estimates suggesting as many as 6,000.
Yep.
While Caesar was fighting a losing battle against Vercingetorix at Gergovia, his best legate, Titus Labienus, was sent to deal with rebellions in northern Gaul.
What is this? Alright. We're gonna end it off here. We're gonna continue the series next week, along with all my other series as well. You made it all the way this far into the video. Make sure that you subscribe, alright? Make sure that you subscribe. Alright? If you like what I have to say in my reactions, man, make sure that you subscribe for more. Because I will be doing a lot more, including my own original content. So don't forget about that as well. Alright. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.